So with our negative categories out of the way, we're going to head on and start talking about some more positive stuff. And one of my favourite categories to talk about, those moments that popped us throughout the year, the gaming moment of the year. Some real heavy hitters in past years here. 2015 was won by the hospital sequence in Metal Gear Solid 5. 2016 was E1M1, the opening sequence of Doom. 2017, Mesquite, Texas in Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. 2018 was acquiring the Blades of Chaos in God of War. God, that was 2 years ago already, fuck's sake. 2019 was the title sequence and opening level from Ape Out. Our nominees this year: The Trial in Paradise Killer, The Heavenly Strike of Ghost of Tsushima, You Are Abby, The Last of Us Part 2, Bobby, Paper Mario The Origami King, Grabbing the Crown in Fall Guys, Defeating Hades in Hades, the opening of Paradise Killer, Winning in the Gulag, COD Warzone, the end of The Last of Us Part 2, and the last chapter of Spider-Man Miles Morales. So starting us off this time is Barry.
Okie dokie. Possibly, in my opinion, the most loaded one we've done so far. I'm combing this here and I'm like, there's a lot of stuff I don't want to cut. I am going to go for one I added myself. The Gulag in Warzone. I think the Gulag is one of my favorite innovations in the Battle Royale genre. I think Warzone in general kind of feels, that and Apex felt like the two games where it's like, okay, this is the next progression of that genre, whereas, you know, PUBG, Fortnite, and even the previous Call of Duty Battle Royale mode, they all felt very similar, whereas the Gulag was this great innovation, very cool idea. Winning in the Gulag is so great. I have never really been into 1v1 stuff in first-person shooters. It's not the type of thing I usually go for. I also feel like typically when you go for that kind of mode, you're going to go up against absolute psychopaths who are amazing at the game. Whereas in the Gulag, it freshens up the Battle Royale because it means you have a chance to not just load in, die, and then go back to a menu. You have a chance to keep going, which is a really cool novelty, considering the early criticism of the genre was you spend 40 minutes looting, you die, and then you're gone. So they alleviated that problem. And also they made 1v1 combat feel loaded with stakes. Like there was a lot on the line. The setting is great. You're in this shitty fucking prison bathroom gulag thing that's just like really grim and apropos for the setting. And again, because you are playing a massively popular free-to-play role-playing game with another loser, it's not like every other instance of doing a 1v1 in a shooter. You're going in there and it's just you and another scrub, and it's about who wants it more. And both from my own time playing and watching streamers play, I love the weird little meta games that have come about from people in the Gulag. And winning is such a thrill, almost as much as winning the mode itself, which I wanted to nominate, but I thought the Gulag was a bit more special. So great. Love it. Great innovation. Great moment to win in the Gulag and just feel yourself jumping back in, telling your friends, I'm dropping in, lads. I'm coming. Find someone, get me a gun. Great stuff. I don't think it hangs with this absolutely bananas category we have here, but thumbs up on the
yeah, I'll just put 30 seconds on the end of that. Completely agree with everything you said. I think one of the things that turned me from not a battle royale guy into really enjoying COD Warzone this year was the Gulag of that frustration of dying quickly but having a way back into the fight. Sometimes it felt random who went to the Gulag, but other times, you're like, right, I'm gonna feint and go here, and you catch someone and you sneak up behind them and you just feel like an absolute G. On other occasions, you do something so dumb like throw a grenade and then run over your own grenade, and you're like, yeah, I deserve to die there. And to me, it kind of felt like the sort of narrow confines of the Gulag felt a bit like playing GoldenEye on N64 in terms of the setting and stuff, and it being like this Russian prison thing, which was really cool. And one of the other things I liked is, as you were waiting to go into the Gulag, you could watch everyone else's Gulag matchups. So if your whole squad got taken out at the same time, if you were like the last one into the gulag, you could help out your squad and tell the other person in your squad where the other guy was going, so that they could take out. And then at least if you lose that way, they could maybe buy you back in. Yep, gulag really fucking cool, but I agree, it doesn't maybe hang.
Man, I've been staring at this list for the last 5 minutes, and I really don't know what to go with. I think, honestly, it's an accomplishment to do it, and Lord knows it took me a while. And the fact that the first time I managed to do it was on a stream, like right at the end of the stream, was pretty cool as well. But I don't know. Grabbing a crown in Fall Guys is an accomplishment, and there is, in some ways, a certain amount of luck that is required, as well as the skill. But also, once I did it, the 2 times I think I did it, I kind of then never really felt like as compelled that I needed to do it again. Partially because like the rewards for getting a crown and what you can do with that crown and what you can spend it on is, I don't know. I feel like the in-game economy of Fall Guys is it's not great. So, and I think that kind of hampers the overall feeling of accomplishment.
Okay, so I'll ditch that.
Anyone
No, I agree.
contest?
I'm actually kind of disappointed, because I was looking at my place and I was like, that's probably going to survive until me, and then I'm going to cut it, and I see how that goes. Wherever, yeah, fair play. Love Fall Guys, but yeah, some of the other stuff in here I love more.
Yeah.
I did my non-moment of the year was when I was playing with my buddies. We were having a few drinks. Great night, great social game over the social distance, when we couldn't be together. And I jumped at the crown and didn't realize you had to press grab.
Oh, the same thing fucking happened to me.
Same.
And I bounced off it, and my own buddy who was in my party chat, he then won. So not only did I lose, I had to listen to him celebrate on the call.
Barry, I was miles ahead on that last fucking level. I had nearly enough time after I fell to get back up, and oh my god, that's how far it was one of those only times where, due to blind luck, all the things that were being thrown at you and bounced at you completely missed me. None of those spinny things hit me. I made a clean run without falling over once. I was miles clear and did not know I had to hit grab, and I nearly cried.
Fall Guys is not perfect, and I think I kind of bounced off it fairly quickly, but it was great for that initial fun factor, and I think so many people, because it was so popular, so many people have stories about that, and so many people who I didn't think would typically care about this kind of stuff had stories of, oh, I got the crown, I did this, I won a game, I was so excited, and I think that is a moment that permeated a lot this year. It's definitely, I'm glad it's on the list for sure.
Yeah. I will go, I'm next, so I will go with one based on the rationale that it isn't my number one, and I think even maybe the person who put it here, it isn't his number one. I'm going to go with the Heavenly Strike from Ghost of Tsushima, and that was, I think, a Barry joint. So Barry, do you want to talk about the Heavenly Strike moment?
Yeah, so I'm still not finished Ghost of Tsushima. I was pretty into it, and then I kind of fell off it, and I got back into it on the PS5 because it's one of those big kind of showpieces on it. The Heavenly Strike is a great example of how strong the side quest writing is in Ghost of Tsushima. So as well as your story quests and side quests you meet from story characters, there's also these things called mythic tales all over the island, and the way it works is, it's very kind of quasi-fantastical. You meet a storyteller, they tell you this fantastical tale about this legendary warrior back in the day who had a sword or a bow or a particular type of technique, and all of these quests result in you getting the thing, the legendary archer's bow, this armor you dug up from somewhere. And one of them is about this guy. He had the most badass sword strike technique you've ever seen. He decimated reams of men to get it, and so there's this one person that you have to try and find who knows the technique. And the quest, this is the first one of these I did. I think a little bit of the appeal was worn off when I saw this exact structure of mission is repeated, but basically you have to find him by following a clue that said he lives near this particular type of flower. So you have to go to this area on the map and manually find the flowers and follow the trail where you find a picture, and then you have to find that picture on the horizon and walk to that place in the mission. Genuinely really cool mission structure that unfortunately they repeat beat for beat in some of these other mythic
and
tales.
it takes you out of your comfort zone with the way you're used to basically just having a waypoint pop up.
Right. Which is in general a great thing this game does. It does away with mini maps and just looking for things on the screen. So this was the first time I had done one of these missions, and so this stuff was all really great to me. And so then you're trying to find the person who knows the technique. You basically realize he's taught. Isn't it, Dave? He's taught it to someone who betrays him basically and kills him. He's like an old man, and so you come to this like Ghost of Tsushima is just loaded with this. Not only just game that looks nice, but the way they structure and kind of frame certain big epic battles is just phenomenal. So one of the clues is you're trying to find these white-leaved trees. They're almost like cherry blossoms, but just imagine Snow White. And so you get to this battlefield that is just almost like a sumo circle in the middle of a forest overlooking a river, and you're surrounded by these white petals. And you have essentially a boss fight where they kind of take away some of your other gadgets, and it's just straight sword fighting. And this dude knows the Heavenly Strike, and it's unblockable, so you have to dodge that. And it's this phenomenal setting where the white petals are flowing all over. Shades of Snake Eater.
Those one-on-one duels are just incredible set pieces.
Yeah. I love all the tools and the trinkets they give you, and the kunai and the smoke bomb, but the core sword fighting in the game is so good that when they strip that shit away and it's like, okay, this is just a sword battle, I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, let's just do it. It's really, really satisfying. So you have this fight, and once you whittle his health down and the battle's gone on long enough, by dodging it and surviving the fight long enough, Jin is like, now I know the Heavenly Strike. I've been able to tell from your movements how you do it, and it's the first, and I'm fairly sure so far, the only unblockable strike you get in the game. So you feel like fucking God. And I still, every time I remember to use it in the fight, I'm like, oh yeah, the Heavenly Strike's fucking awesome. And it's a proper, like, for a game that has, it's not very cartoonish, but the Heavenly Strike is a little cartoonish in that it's kind of, you just raise your blade and he just darts forward super fast and kind of cuts through people. And so you have this epic fight, you learn the Heavenly Strike halfway through it, you win the fight, and then, befitting the name, the guy you're fighting gets struck by lightning at the end of the fight, before you finish him off, because you're fighting in a seaside kind of mountain front where it's storming, and the everything from the nature of the mission to the move you learn and how cool it feels to use it genuinely feels like I got a rad, legendary move that I can actually really use, and it changes the way I play the game. The writing, and then the setting, the beautiful, over-the-top, epic samurai battle setting of the conclusion. It was fantastic. It was so fantastic, and it's example A1 of how, Ghost of Tsushima, it's packing a punch on the side stories that I think maybe people might have slept on. I said all that. It's fantastic, but I agree with Dave. It can go.
Well, at least it got its moment to shine.
It got its due. It's really tremendous, but it can go for sure.
Okay, Jack.
Now, there are 2 moments on here from a great game. I'm going to strike at one of them.
Be very careful.
And I see what you guys, whether you agree to strike this off. Paradise Killer is a very good game. It has 2 moments on here. Of those 2 moments, I feel like the stronger moment is the trial, and the weaker moment is probably the opening of the game, which is awesome. But based on that logic, that's going to be my cut.
If I'm going to pick one of the 2, then I would agree with that, unless Mark disagrees strongly.
Mark?
I would.
No. The 2, I would go with the trial.
I would agree. Also, was I the only one who, like, the opening starts and it's so awesome? I was hoping it would be longer. I feel like I hit the ground way sooner than I was hoping. Like, if that sequence was like maybe a minute or 2 longer with that great music. If anyone hasn't played Paradise Killer, what are you doing? First of all, it's always on sale.
If you haven't played Paradise Killer, go fuck yourself.
get on that, or go fuck yourself. It's basically just kind of a kind of free fall skydive from a platform down into the fantastical weird island you're playing through, and the music is great and the credits are rolling. And yeah, if it had been 2 minutes longer, I feel like I'd be saying, whoa, hold on, let's maybe have a talk about this. But I don't think it hangs with the other stuff.
Okay. That was easy and painless enough.
Love it.
Barry.
Okay. Now we're in tough territory. Can I ask? I'm not saying I necessarily want to. Is there a particular Bobby moment from Paper Mario we're talking about?
Yeah, you haven't gotten to the bit with Bobby Hill in
Yes.
it?
Yes.
There is a very specific Bobby
Yes.
moment. There is the Bobby moment.
I feel like I haven't gotten to it, but feel free to spoil me because
No, Barry. Oh.
I know. Well, spoilers for the rest of the awards. I like Paper Mario, but I'm not really. So I'm not.
I'm sadder about the fact that I have to spoil it on you than you like being just okay with the game.
I mean, I guess if it's not either of your number ones, then you don't have to spoil it. Because it's you and Jack that put it on.
Yeah, because it's
no,
so
I'm
great.
about just the game in general, not like the moment. Like the moment for me, this is my number one moment. I'm just talking about the game in general for like later on.
Well, I don't have to cut that if we don't want to do that yet. Looking at my own stuff that I nominated as well, I always think that's easy to do. Like realistically, like as I'm sitting here right now, live this second, like I don't know which of my Last of Us moments I'd rather be having. And realistic, and same with Paradise Killer, it has to be one. It cannot be both.
So I think as the other high man on Last of Us Part 2, it's tough because it's two different kinds of moments. Like there's unless you've been paying very, very close attention to the way the game opens, like we talked about how if you're reading between the lines, it is kind of telegraphed. But for a lot of people, it's a profoundly shocking moment when you become Abby.
Yeah.
At the midpoint of the game.
But the ending just kind of represents this thing to me that for both Last of Us games where it's kind of the ending is that moment where it's maybe not you're gonna fall out of your chair, but it's more kind of you just kind of sit back and go, it was worth it. Everything was worth it. They paid it off so well.
I think that whole from when she leaves the house again, like that whole like almost like it almost felt like DLC after the first ending, you know what I mean? But it like that whole thing, like you said, whereas the Abby moment is more of a kind of, oh my god, sharp intake of breath, I wasn't expecting that. I think in terms of the narrative of both games and what you come to understand of the characters in this world, I think the way The Last of Us sticks the landing on the ending is probably better in that way.
It sounds absolutely and utterly miserable, the ending of this game. I'm not gonna downplay it because I wasn't invested in the game. I watched the cutscenes, I read the context, and fuck me, did you guys, you say you sat back and you were like, wow, but did you also not sit back and be like, what is life after that? Because
but it's a very what is life series. Like this, the franchise opens with a man's daughter dying. You know what I mean? Like this is not the happy smile fun time era.
So spoiler alert, I tried to play through because I wanted to play Last of Us 2 because I wanted to join in with all that fun discourse, and I played through about halfway of Last of Us and I was enjoying it. I'm not sure what threw me off, but yeah, that whole first chapter of like mayhem and shit getting blown up and everything going wrong, and him losing his daughter was like that got me. I was like, wow, this is fucking, this is hard hitting. But there's always hope, or like at least I felt like I hope at some point, there's some sort of positive thing to come out of this. But the story of Last of Us 2 just sounds like it's really devoid of any hope. Like, I mean, I don't know. Are we okay to say spoilers?
Yeah.
Of course we are. Yeah, I think we can. Like that's why I wasn't gonna begrudge being spoiled on Bobby because I'm like, this is the game of the year. You got to just do it. You know what I mean? We got to just go spoilers.
Hang on a sec. Like the entire marketing, pretty much every commercial I saw, she sat there, she's playing her song on the guitar. It's a really featured kind of thing, and she goes back to fight an unnecessary fight driven by her own like rage and embitterment which then leads to the loss of her fingers and having the inability to play guitar, while the person that she beat in the fight and could have killed just essentially gets a boat out to nowhere to probably die eventually. That's guys, that's horrible. It's just so horrible.
But like this is the thing that like I think the end of the first game is the death of hope in many ways, and a lot of the things that happen as a ripple effect in the second one are based on, you know, the characters from the first game having to live with the consequences of that decision. And yeah, I just think I would have felt shortchanged if we got a happy walking off into the sunset ending or anything approaching it.
Did she have to lose the fingers though?
But this is what, like, I felt that this was, as horrible as it was, this was the ending that was always coming for Ellie. You know, and I think it's something we talked about on that big breakdown podcast. It was like, this felt like where it was always heading. The game is characterized by how often she could just let things go and could just make, you know, try and lead a different life, but she can't. She can't get out of her own way.
Yeah, and I think the thing about that arc of kind of someone self-sabotaging and ultimately the ending and the spark, the small spark of hope is them saying, "Oh, this isn't right. I have to let go and go forward." But I think this sounds like I'm being very biblical, but it's like for all that needless vengeance seeking, she kind of does have to be punished and lose something to really learn the fruitlessness of it all,
Yeah,
and how
otherwise you have serial killer escapes all consequences.
She already lost Joel though, right, guys? I mean,
but again, like, by the time that she did lose him, that relationship was very complex, shall we say, and some of the rage that she expresses following that was less about how that she lost him and more about how she lost him and the way things ended and how she missed him so much but was still so mad at him, you know.
Fair enough.
I mean, to Jack's point, I mean, this is definitely, because a lot of people like write this game off, and I'm not even saying, you know, they're wrong, because I can get where they're coming from. Is just like it's just too nihilistic and downtrodden, and I can totally get that. But I think both these games are they are about hope, but they are about digging through a mountain of shit to find the crumb of hope. Do you know what I mean? It's definitely small, but I think it is there, and it's like all the mayhem and the betrayal and the backstabbing and the murder of the first game, and the damning decisions at the end of the first game. You know, the little bit of hope is that, hey, you have a personal connection that matters to you, that you can hold on to, and in this game, it's kind of even more abstract, which is kind of something what I love about this game, is that they went for it so much more with this game, to the point that it's kind of like, I think it is a hopeful ending, but it's not a hopeful ending in the sense that she comes home, she's lost her fingers, but oh well, you know, she holds Dina's hand and walks off into the sun. That would have been, because it's funny, they said they've gone back and forth on what that final frame should have been, and I think they definitely went in such a way as it's kind of like, it could be hopeful, but we're not going to make it.
Yeah, I think the hope comes from the fact that she let her go, which means that, you know, if you want to get, like Mary said, all biblical again, there is a sign there that, like, you know, if you want to be wanky about it, say, like, the redemption of her soul, that, like, this is indication that maybe she can change, you know, because that was the thing. She couldn't ever stop herself before this. And this was the moment that she finally, something changed, you know?
Right. So the storytelling of this, I want to say before people get mad at me, I think the storytelling is fantastic. Like, me watching the cutscenes and reading through what happened, I was like, no fucking way. So, like, in terms of best story category, I would absolutely have no qualms with what they did with this story being incredibly unexpected and really brave, and it's nihilistic, but it was very well told, and nothing felt like they hadn't earned it. You know, it all was above board and stuff. But I don't know, does best moment, is it in a best moment? Like, the reveal of Abby makes sense, because it's like, you know, you've got the Raiden style bait and switch where, you know, you're actually playing as a different character or whatever. But yeah, I mean, a super. I don't know. I
guess it depends on what you feel makes the moment for you. Like at the moment of surprise and this is an interesting twist on things with Abby, or what myself and Barry feel is a very worthy payoff to 7 years since that first game came out. The end of Ellie's story that we've all been waiting for, and the weight of expectation that it had. And how great it was, nihilistic as it may be in some senses. I would definitely lean towards, of the two Last of Us moments, the end.
I am very conflicted, I will say, because the thing is, the end is more kind of that it is literally just the end. It's the fact that, hey, they culminated the story and it was good. I prefer the end, but I do feel like the Abby thing is more of a moment.
And it was definitely more of a discourse moment.
Yeah, I mean, the Abbey thing it's closer to Mesquite and the Blades of Chaos than the ending is. Like, it's this, especially because, like, the further we get away from the game, the more I'm just like, it's so insanely ballsy that they had, like, this 12-hour typically sized Naughty Dog campaign. It comes to this thrilling conclusion and it just cuts to black and resets the clock, and you're the antagonist all of a sudden. And not just that switch, but the culmination of that, whatever it would have been, 20 minutes of gameplay, is when they tie it back into the ending of the first game and you realize who Abby is, and then they flash forward again to the scene with Joel, and it's just constantly like, oh my God, they didn't just shock you for the sake of shocking you. They have it's kind of like, actually, when I was talking about like Mesquite back in 2017, it's like a 1-2-3 punch into the face of Revelations, which is where where I hesitate to cut that moment. It may well be the most like shocking and most I don't want to say divisive, because that just brings up the shitty parts of this game, but like the most talked about moment of the game. This might be it. You know, this might be. So
you've talked
even
me
though
over
I'm
there
totally even though I'm totally with you on the ending being incredible, and it's that sweet chef's kiss, they did it moment after 7 years of waiting, I would actually be more in favor of cutting the end, because I think Abby is more that E1M1, the hospital. It's in that wheelhouse of moment. Okay. I would say.
All right.
So I would cut the end. Okay. I would say.
Right. So let's do that. And
there's our first Last of Us diatribe of the day now. My chest is sore.
Stay tuned for more later on, ladies and gents. Next up, Mark. Mark is just going to toss Abby out the window now.
No. I'll keep this short and sweet. Defeating Hades is, I think, more of like gaming accomplishment of the year, and probably more than gaming moment.
It's like me trying to shoehorn in beating the devil last year.
Yeah, and it, like, the first time I did it, I swear there was a sweat above my brow, and that kind of, that release you get after you've just done a particularly challenging part in a Doom game where the adrenaline's up and everything, and you accompany that with the music, which I will talk about later on, and it's a real fucking like epic climactic battle that sometimes some games fall short of having that boss fight, that final boss fight that really feels like the actual final boss fight, but they fucking nail it with Hades. And even though you will come back and you will do that fight multiple times if you choose to, it takes a hell of a lot of you getting yourself powered up, because Hades is the roguelite in the Dead Cells category of where you can get those kind of permanent effects over time. But you still, you have to bulk yourself up and buff yourself up a lot before Hades becomes any kind of cakewalk. But I think it is more of a gaming accomplishment than it is a gaming moment of the year. Okay. So I am, Hades is an entire package more than like specific individual moments, I feel. So yeah, I think defeating Hades can come off.
Okay, so we have 4 moments left, and it's me. And I feel like I am going to ask this question of Jack, who has the most to lose or gain by this, because I know what my number 1 and 2 are. So I'm going to offer you, Jack, I was going to go with either Bobby or Miles Morales, and I feel like maybe I'm leaning towards Miles Morales for the same reasons that we cut the end, because it's a chapter or an act of a game as opposed to an individual moment.
Yeah, I mean, I know that. So I was probably going to cut this because I know I can't get this over. Because I'm the only one here that's played it. But Miles Morales is a really well told, really tight story, and that they introduce a new villain into the universe, which, spoiler alert, it turns out to be a close childhood friend. And the last chapter, you're going to basically, she's going back to a science museum where they worked on a project when they were children, to gain a power source to kind of reach like the last step of basically taking out this big evil corporation that she's been raging against for the whole game. So she's kind of like a villain, but also not a villain, because Roxxon like completely ruining the part of Harlem that Miles is from, and I think he's on board with taking them out as well, but not in the way that she wants to, which is basically going to blow half of Harlem apart in the end. But she's unaware of this, because Miles, earlier on in the game, before he found out that Finn, his friend, was the Tinkerer, who's the villain in the game, he lied to her to try and get in with her crew, so she now doesn't trust him. So that element of distrust means when he's trying to tell her that what she's going to do isn't just going to blow up a building, but it's going to blow up half of Harlem, again, she doesn't trust him and thinks that he's just lying again. So they've set that up really well. And you go to the science museum, and you immediately go into a flashback of the two of them when they're kids, going to the science museum and seeing how excited they were, seeing what it meant to them to build this project together, seeing how they had to sneak in because they didn't have tickets, and seeing their project in amongst all of these other great things on display. And it just gives you that setting of what this totem that is an energy source means to them as a pair, and why Miles figures out that that's where she's going and that's what she's going to get to sort of carry out her plan. And then you have this insane climactic final battle in Harlem where her crew and Roxxon's like Doom Patrol soldiers are having this massive fight, and Miles is then like trying to take both sides out at the same time, and some of them attacking him and some of them aren't, and it's just this whole thing. And then the game culminates in this moment where, spoiler alert, he hasn't managed to stop her from activating this thing that's going to explode, and he spent the whole game absorbing all this energy into his suit, because he has this like electrical absorption ability with the suit to power down Roxxon's generators, and he's trying to do it, and it's going to lead to his demise, and she just flies up in the air with the power source and just bang, explodes, despite the fact that it was her. It was her thing all the way through, that she wanted to take out Roxxon and completely ruin it for them and stuff. But she sees Miles about to die, and whatever instinct it is left in her as a best friend, and seeing how he's struggling and trying to help everybody. And she just realizes, I fucked it. I need to make amends. And she takes the generator, she flies up in the air, and she explodes. And it's brilliant. It's just so... It's so masterfully told. It's a really tight story, and that moment really meant something. You weren't thinking about, I did 2.5 hours worth of side quests to go and collect all this thing, because it hasn't had that element of the last game. So it just, as good as that Doc Ock fight was from the first game, this just felt like it meant so much more. And then the last act is the very Spider-Man 2-esque thing of everybody kind of protecting Miles's identity in Harlem, all the people from the neighborhood giving him his mask back and kind of letting him walk away before the news reporters get to him. And yeah, it's done so well. It's done so well. It's a really good story. Obviously, no one here is gonna have my back on this one, but I had to have it up there. I think maybe personally it might be, if not my top, then definitely my joint top, and I love it, but I'm gonna let it go here. And yeah, the last chapter of Miles Morales is very good.
Okay, we're down to 3 now. So do we want to go for a vote, or well, actually, does anyone have Bobby as number 1 here? of what's left.
Yeah,
I love Bobby as well. This moment is fucking class to me. Go on, Mark, you do it justice.
So I guess we have to talk about the trial and Bobby. So I'll go through Bobby. So basically, there comes a point first of all, so Bobby is a Bobomb that has amnesia or ambrosia or amnesty or thinky panic, and he joins your crew, and you go through a couple of different scenarios and levels, and he's a useful member of the team. But then there comes a point where you end up getting kind of like blocked off, and a boulder kind of falls, and it crushes one of the kind of side protagonists that are with you, and you can't help them, you can't get access to them, and you're kind of stuck there. And then Bobby decides, hey, I have an idea, come with me. He doesn't tell you what the plan is, he doesn't tell you anything, and this is, he's only been with you about 2.5 hours at this point, and you really think that, okay, this is just this we're the trio, and this is what who I'm going to be with for the rest of the game. So you go off, and you go onto this boat, and you have this kind of big fight with a giant squid, and you do all this stuff, and it's very kind of this kind of swashbuckling adventure almost. And you get the thing that you're looking for, which is just this box, but he doesn't tell you what's in the box. You go back to the boulder with this box, and he opens the box up, and there is a wick that is the thing that's on the top of his head that Bob-ombs have that helps them explode. And he basically goes through and he talks about how this wick belonged to his friend that saved his life, and he kept it because just as a memento to them. And he basically explains that, he's going to use this wick on himself to detonate himself so he can explode this boulder, so you can get the other side protagonist and carry on. And he kind of just nonchalantly is like, the life of a Bob-omb isn't really that long anyway, so, just we have to make the best of the time we have. And it's just he self-sacrifices himself for the kind of greater good of taking down the Origami King. And it comes out of nowhere. You are just not expecting this moment of self-sacrifice to appear in a Mario game. And for the first time in my life, I had a genuine tear from a Mario game.
You're going to say for the first time in your life you had a genuine tear.
Well, there's that as well. But think of what has to be happening for that to occur in a Mario game. And it's the fact that it comes out of the blue, you're not expecting it. The fact that, again, it's in a Mario game, and the moments afterwards as well. There's a song that plays that we'll talk about in Game of the soundtrack of the year. It's straight out of a Final Fantasy game in terms of the melody and the somberness and the weight behind it for what it represents. Because that song is played just the one time, and it plays as you're kind of walking around doing the next bits as your companion's kind of hey, where's Bobby? What happened? And she kind of comes to the realization of what Bobby had to do for her to be able to carry on with you. And oh my god, it is my most it's just the most unexpected thing. I didn't play Last of Us 2, so I'm sure if I had got to the bit with Abby in the end, I'd have been as shocked as well. But for me, and a pivotal moment in a game that stuck with me for the rest of the year, even more so than the trial, because the trial is, it's the kind of big climax that you're leading up to, and it is still an incredible moment. Just as a gaming moment, Bobby by far, it was just incredible.
Yeah.
Jack, I don't know if you had any.
So I co-sign everything about that, and I think what it made me think of is, this game has real elements of Wizard of Oz, right? Where you are following a colored path to find a solution to something, right? So you're collecting these companions, and, if I only had a brain, is ringing around when you meet Bobby, and he's talking about his amnesia, and he's not really sure what's going on, or his ambrosia, thinky panic, which is very funny, like Mark said. So to me, I'm this is an accepted companion, and I feel like Mario's almost his role that he's taken on is that of Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz. and they're all off to see, in this case, the wizard is a bad guy that they're going to take out. And then you just do not see this thing coming at all. There's this guy that's accepted as part of your crew that you're trying to help, and really doesn't give you any detail on how he's going to solve this problem. And in the last thing you're thinking in a Paper Mario game is that there's going to be this moment of self-sacrifice. And
well, even in a Nintendo game, because like companions that you have in Nintendo games in general usually either are like a plot device at some point that you have to rescue them, or they're integral to the story up until the end.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, the additional context of the fuse that he uses being the one of his dead friend. I mean, it was just like, right. I mean, you you cranked it up, but it made the whole thing feel special in a way. And the fact that he sacrifices himself to save Olivia, and then it just makes you feel like for the rest of the journey, it's like, right, they really need to stop the fucking Origami King himself from folding his final toad or making his final crane, and they have the added incentive of doing right by Bobby for the rest of the game. And he even appears as a ghost later on in the game to give them a bit of a G up at one point. And yeah, it just, to me, it's like, I didn't think I would buy this heavily into a story in Paper Mario, and I already was on the hook for Paper Mario big time. But yeah, it's a special moment, and one that I really didn't expect.
It sounds incredible, and even as someone I think I'm roughly halfway through, I would believe this game has those chops, because it is such a likable, snappy game with really charming story, and I do like Bobby as a character, so you've given me the hard sell on that for sure.
Should we give some airtime to the trial?
We have to.
Because I think, like, we talked a lot about The Last of Us 2 being a very satisfying ending for that franchise, or at least that arc for Ellie, but holy hell, as a tight package, I don't know if any game stuck the landing harder or better for me this year than Paradise Killer and The Trial. And I think the way they bring that all together, bring the whole story together, and pay off the work you've done to try and chase leads, and how prepared you're coming into the trial, and the way it gets you to build your case, and the conclusions that come out of that. The whole game took my breath away, like, as a whole package. And I remember saying, I don't know if I said it on the podcast or I was just saying it to you guys privately, but that was my one worry going through. And I know it was Jack's worry when he started playing it as well. I was like, this is so good. I hope they end it well. And the trial is just, it's brilliant. And it's the whole game is such a surprise package. It was not on my radar. It was just a thing that people were talking up a lot. And when I finally got into it, I was just like, oh my God, I love this. I love it so much. It's like this was crafted specifically for me. What were your guys' experiences of the trials? Whoever wants to go first.
Well, I think it's also a culmination of, like, that game's sense of style.
Yeah.
Like, like the screen where, like, people are executed.
Oh my God.
And that like one audio clip plays. Like, it's just so
justice is served.
Paradise Killer. Justice is served. It's fantastic. It's so great. But also, I never ended up actually doing this. I was curious to go back and see if I could either, like, pick all the wrong people or just YouTube people picking the wrong people. I don't know, because for me personally, it came together really well for me. It was such a satisfying ending because you literally just get to pick all your stuff that you've spent 20 hours gathering. It's so satisfying. And when you nail the right people, they, like, confess, like, you damn kids, you foiled my plan. And it's just, it pays off so wonderfully.
What you get is, if you get the wrong person, is that it will let you pick the wrong person if there's enough suspicion you have gathered around them to build a narrative. But if you just blindly accuse person X and don't have a hell of a lot of stuff you've researched to back it up, the judge will literally just go, no.
Which still, my big question I had at the time when I was talking about it is like, what happens if, because the game is structured in a Breath of the Wild sort of way where you can just go to the trial straight away, but I never actually did go back to see what happens if you go there at the start and you try to go there with no evidence.
It won't let you convict anybody without the right, if you can get there, like the motive means an opportunity, you know? Without that, it won't let you like actually convict anybody. And there are, I think, 5 or 6 different permutations of endings, because there are, what unravels across the game, again, we're way to spoiler territory on this show, but what unravels is a conspiracy that pulls in several different crimes and several different people. So you can, within that, pick various combinations of the right and wrong people, like,
which I did.
Yeah, and I got the best possible ending. From what I understand, I got everybody right. But yeah, like you said, you can get 1 or 2 people wrong, or you can pin the whole thing. You know, it just depends on how meticulously you've collected evidence and how much you've read in your menus to try and piece it together in your head. And there's one in particular, like I know there is, how is it? Because obviously there's not a lot of voice text, and it's like the Danangon whole subplot hidden. You could conceivably think you've gotten almost everything in that game and never be aware that character exists, and that character is central to the conspiracy. So yeah, it's just,
I'm curious if anyone took everything at face value and just went to trial and blamed Henry for everything.
Yeah. Fuck him, because that is like, if you go down a particular path and ignore a couple of the, like, if you're just kind of, if you're not actually reading what people are saying and trying to get, like, explore every tree, early on in that game in particular, pretty much everyone on the island is saying, well, it's the guy who did it is the one who did it. You know, like, they're all pretty much...
They didn't know there was a fucking
I
warp
thought it was
door,
Henry.
That's
yeah,
because
you really have to go back and forth of going, well, this guy said that what you said was bollocks, and keep doing that. Otherwise it will...
It's interesting because it leans so heavily into telling you that it is Henry that you, at first you're like, well, obviously it's not Henry, but then it kind of doubles down on like, no, it really fucking is Henry.
Yeah.
So you're like, actually, was it
There's
Henry?
a point it leaves you away, and then it leads you back to him hard, and you're like, oh fuck. But yeah, look, I love it so fucking much. This game, start to finish. I have a feeling I'm not going to swing this one. I have a feeling my race is run with it when we come to the vote. But fuck, I just love the trial in this game so much. I ended that game with a big dopey smile on my face. If anybody, you know, in my groups or anything like that, in the youth project or anything like that, if they ask me what game have you been playing that you'd recommend this year, without hesitation, it's Paradise Killer. And part of it is because it sticks the landing so well. Yeah. You know? And
the key thing you mentioned is the fact that it, like, the presentation and like how the executions are done, like, it's all within the tone of what that game is, and you're absolutely right. It lands that landing perfectly. I guess the one thing is, like, potentially because of the style of ending it is and how that game like weaves itself together, that not everyone is going to get the same ending. So like maybe for some people it's more frustrating than it is for others. That's so one kind of critique I can have against it, but it's not the best critique.
Okay, well, seeing as like everybody feels strongly about at least one on here, should we just go to a vote?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Barry.
I will go with The Last of Us Abby moment.
Mark.
Man, it's a tough one, and it's kind of like the head and the heart thing, and there is a part of me that does, like, with everything you said about the trial, I do agree, and
do it.
I'm not gonna though. I have to go with Bobby. I'm sorry. I cried in a Mario game. All right.
Yeah. I'm going with the trial, hands down. Jack.
I'm gonna have to go Bobby. That shit got me, man. That shit got me.
Okay, so your winner for 2020 gaming moment of the year is Bobby Paper Mario at the Origami King.
I'm really curious to know what the fan vote is for this one.
Oh,
Like,
wait till you see,
can't-
mate. Wait till you see. Hold on.
Oh man,
Let me
I
just.
gotta think it's Last of Us,
solidify
right?
this on
I mean, that had the most penetration in terms of people playing.
A lot of people played Fall Guys, though. I mean, I am quite curious as well about this.
Gaming moment of the year 2020 from the fan vote was tied.
Oh.
18.5% going for both Grabbing the Crown and Bobby.
Wow.
Whee.
Love the people this
Bobby
year.
with the votes.
Yeah. You Are Abby got 11.1% of the vote. Putting it behind.
Misogynist listeners.
Putting it behind The End got more. So The End of Last of Us got more, and Defeating Hades also tied with The End, both on 14.8%. The Trial got one solitary vote, which tells me that fuck all people have played this game, which I would suspect.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd say
sadly.
that's more a reflection on that than anything else.
It's very under-discussed, I have found.
Very few people, well, a few people have played it. Fewer have probably seen it out to its conclusion, I would say. Right.
I gotta feel the same way about Miles Morales as well. Did that get any votes?
I don't think so.
No.
No, because no one has a PlayStation
I'm really
5.
excited about Miles, but I actually haven't got it yet.
It either didn't get votes or got such a small slice that I can't see the percentage it got here.
Oh dear.